Amazing. Family is nice.
Family's
actually,
good.
And it's an accurate word to use because we really did feel so invited into it when we got hired. The people at the helm, J.K. Rowling, David Heyman, and the director David Yates, they all worked on so many of these films. Obviously, J.K. Rowling created the whole thing. And so it did feel, it was like getting, marrying into a very lovely family. It was
Same for you?
Exactly the same. No, it was this amazing thing by which, because those people had worked on all the Potter films, there was this comfort. They were so sort of comfortable in each other's company, and they welcomed us in, and it felt like there was a freshness of our being given the freedom to do whatever we want, but at the same point there was this kind of great familiarity.
And there was a buzz and excitement around too, because they were all getting to go back to that world too that they loved so much. Yeah. And a lot of the crew as well had worked on those other films, so it was a really great energy on set.
When we were making the film, because all the people who had worked on the Potter films were working on this, they created this atmosphere which felt like we were making a little independent film with no pressure whatsoever. And it was only afterwards when we started meeting journalists that they're like, how does the pressure feel? And we start
like,
just sort of gently
of course,
sweating.
The pressure. I hadn't thought about the pressure. Yeah. I liked to, I mean, I was probably just some kind of trick of the mind to keep myself from freaking out, but I like to think of it like we were a sports team and we had these fans who just wanted us to do well and they loved to come to the games and, root for us. So that was the sort of lie I told myself to try to get.
So it's all of the wonder and the magic and the heart of the Harry Potter films, but set in the 1920s. So my character went to Hogwarts, but has come over to America at the beginning of the film, and through a very serious events, some of his beasts begin to escape, and that sets into motion a sort of insight into a much bigger thing going on in the wizarding world. So it's many of the familiar things, but taken to the other side of the pond, and at 70 years beforehand. Does that make sense?
Wonderful balance of the familiar and the new.
That's much better. Exactly.
Can we get there? Let's get to the point. No, I'm just kidding. I'm the rambler. You are very articulate. It's a real mouthful, and she's as complicated as her name. She's one of my favorite things about her is that she's simultaneously confident and insecure, and I feel like that's more true to life than that you are just one or the other. And most people have moments where they think, "My God, I really showed up in that situation, and I had courage." And then the next day, what went wrong today? Did I get out of bed the wrong side? I feel so scared of life. And she has that sort of mixture going all the time, and I love that about her. And I also love, when I first read the script, I really loved her journey. That at the beginning, she's really uneducated about fantastical beasts and is. Maybe even a little bigoted, judgmental of what she doesn't fully understand, and through the process of being exposed to them and seeing what they are through Eddie's eyes, she comes to a greater understanding, and I loved that journey and that growth.
No, what I love about Newt is he is someone that he's a bit of an outsider, and he is definitely more comfortable in the company of his creatures than he is with human beings. And he's quite, I think, a lonely figure, but quite content in himself. But throughout the film, through meeting Catherine's character and Queenie and Jacob, he begins to kind of emerge and find himself, really.
I mean, I suppose it's surreal, but I think it's a kind of hard thing to comprehend, On the one hand, we are just workers going to work and trying to do a good job, and it's almost, the scale of things certainly the sets were huge and glorious and amazing, and there were those moments when we were shooting where we had, like pinch me moments, that it was just so beautiful and extraordinary to be a part of it. But really, I feel like it's a hard thing to comprehend while you're working. We're just starting to sort of, or I shouldn't speak for you, but we're just starting to experience really how big it is now. We had a fan event, and they were Skyping in theaters full of fans from all around the world, and there was something about that experience where I thought, oh my goodness, they're everywhere. These people are so excited, and that was, I feel like in a weird way, that was the most overwhelmed I've felt. So we're just starting to feel it.
Same for you?
Yeah, well, for me, it was just the scale of what they had built in Leavesden. It wasn't shot in New York. It was shot just outside of London in a place called Watford. But they built 1920s New York, and they had cars from the 1920s. They had, as far as you could see down the street, there were thousands of extras in 1920s garb, and there was smoke coming out of the potholes. And I remember just standing there at one moment, and it felt like what you read about in the books of the golden age of Hollywood. It felt like a different era.
Ben-Hur, Cleopatra, this extraordinary scale.
Insane. The mating dance, when I read the script, there was this moment, it was just 2 words. It said, now Newt does mating dance. And I was like, oh, it's easy for you to write, J.K. Rowling.
Not so easy
Slightly
to
more
do.
complicated to pull. So I went and worked with a dancer, a choreographer, and we spent a long time looking on YouTube for weird birds doing mating calls and all this sort of stuff. And we filmed some very humiliatingly embarrassing attempts by me to do mating dances that if they ever get out there into the world, could probably end my career.
And your social life.
And my social life and everything, frankly. But what we ended up doing was still pretty humiliating. So yeah, it was weirdly exhausting.
Really?
Because when I saw the film, I remember it being a night that went on and on. I pulled every muscle in every part of me, and I was sweating like a fiend. And then when I saw it in the film, it was gone in a second. And I was like, what? I bled for that.
Yeah, it's strange the things that injure you when you're making a magical film. We all talked about having wand elbow, that when you have to do the same spell over and over all day, you start to get the very similar ache that you get when you play tennis.
We basically went and watched lots of the Harry Potter guys
and just outright
stole
robbed
their
them.
best bits. So I remember stealing a bit from Emma, in which she did a little turn as she was obliviating. I wanted to steal from Ralph Fiennes in some hardcore duel. He just got like that. But there wasn't an appropriate moment.
I remember watching that duel between Rafe and Dan. I was like, do I do their names or their character names? Anyway, between Rafe and Dan, and it was something I hadn't really considered, was the force that the power that these wands have. So in the battle, I had a little duel with, I don't actually want to give anything away, but with someone in the film. And it was the energy that I thought, okay, I've got to remember just how forceful these things can be, but then they can also be very everyday, and you're just setting the table and you have to not think about it so much.
What's interesting as an actor is that Catherine and I have both been acting for 10, 12
About
years.
95.
Yeah, 76 years.
Yes, yeah.
And we both started in theatre, and you do a lot of theatre, and then if you're lucky enough to get into film, you have. But I suppose what I'm saying is it feels like I've been at it for an age, and just the amazing thing about film is there is an alchemy there, that sometimes scripts that you think are really good end up being really bad films, and sometimes a script that's not great catches, and so it's all about luck when it comes down to it.
Talent also?
Well, maybe sometimes a little bit.
Luck, magic, and talent.
Exactly.
In that order.
Yeah, exactly.